Monday is Mo Day, his moment of truth. Friday is court day, she fresh in the booth. Hump day's exciting, your friends may say how. Getting you through, it's Lloyd with Wednesday Wow. Monday is Mo Day, his moment of truth. Friday is court day, she fresh in the booth. Hump day's exciting, your friends may say how. Getting you through, it's Lloyd with Wednesday Wow. Yo, what up? Welcome to the Wednesday Wow. Lloyd here. Hope everybody's doing okay. Today is February the 13th, 2019. That's right, we're pushing. We ain't stopping. It's not stopping. The year is not stopping for anyone. We keeping it pushing, you understand? 2019. We are here and we're moving forward. Wednesday Wow. As I am fighting off this sinus infection from all of this pollen and stuff that's going on in the air, we're also talking about the fight within. The fight that's going on inside. Now, two things I want to highlight before I get into the story that I'm going to share is one of the reasons why I think I've done so well in recovery. And I know I talk about recovery a lot, but keep in mind, there are lots of folks recovering from something. You might not be recovering from mental illness. You might not be recovering from addiction. You may be recovering from something totally different, but recovery is a very real part of life. And if you haven't recovered from anything, it's because maybe you haven't identified that there's something going on in your life in which you need to recover, or you haven't identified the process, but we're all recovering. And in some cases, I realize that my recovery is going so well is because I've identified struggles that we all have. And I've realized that those struggles are not unique to me, and answers or problem solvers have been identified already. So now it's important for me to get to know people, and as I get to know people, I'm learning and I'm gathering, and I'm like, wow, we're all a lot alike. That's my first point. We're all a lot alike. So some of the things that I talk about, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you have reached that point in your life or not, whether it's something in the ancient history of your life or not, we all go through some of the same experiences. So that's one thing. The second thing that I want to mention is all the times, information is all around us. Information, whether it be through a conversation that you've had, whether it be through a conversation that you may have had, or an experience while you were driving your car, while you were at work, while you were online, watching one of your videos. I watch lots of highlight videos from old school dunking contests and all kind of stuff. But you're learning all day. I'm like a sponge. Stuff is going in all day. So sometimes when I get some very profound, like epiphany when I'm doing something that may seem very elementary, which leads me right into my story. I was watching Madagascar. Now keep in mind, we're talking about the fight within. I was watching Madagascar. Escape to Africa, I want to say. Now keep in mind, we're talking about a hippopotamus. If you haven't watched Madagascar, Escape to Africa, you should watch it. We're talking about a hippopotamus. We're talking about a zebra. We're talking about a lion. And I think it's one more. And it's a couple other animals. Anyhow, they were in the zoo, and they were good friends in the zoo and all this good stuff. I think it was like the New York Zoo or something like that. And then the lion was like the king of New York and all of that. So they're in the zoo, and they interact with each other. They have a great time. They are the show of the zoo, right? So somehow, I can't remember the piece of how they got to Africa. But when they got to Africa, the zebra, started hanging out with the zebras, running around and having a great time. And it was like a new life for the zebra. And then you look at the lion. The lion actually met his real family. And then you got, the hippopotamus was able to go do what real hippopotamuses do, and the giraffe was doing what giraffes do. Well, they said the giraffe was like a doctor or something like that. Anyway, it was a funny story. But anyway, the entire time they were there, now keep in mind, these are wildlife animals that they were in captivity in the zoo, and they've been returned to their natural habitat, okay? Their entire time while they're in their natural habitat, they're trying to return back to the zoo because they've identified the zoo as home. They've identified the cage as home. They've identified captivity as home. That's what they have here, right? So the entire time they're in Africa, they're putting together schemes and plans and plots to return back to the zoo. That's not all. So they finally get back. They have this crazy adventure of running from this cop and being on this airplane they created, and they had some monkeys working on the airplane. I mean, I'm talking about a wild adventure. They get back to the zoo. They're standing in front of the zoo. They're about to go back into what they consider home. They get back in, and then they look in and they say, man, I didn't realize my rock was so small that I used to stand up on. Wow. I didn't realize that wall was between us, and we were talking, and that wall was there. So I can't even see you. If we go back in there, I can't even see you while I'm talking to you anymore. So what happened is they realized that, man, this is not what I remember it to be. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. My biggest fight within, and maybe you can relate to this. My biggest fight within is sometimes looking back at my life. And as screwed up as things were, I remember it being differently. I remember the glory of it. I remember the good moments. I remember the laughs. I remember the fun times, and I try to make myself back to some experiences. Maybe I'm trying to make myself my way back to old relationships and old friendships. Maybe I'm trying to make my way back to an old car that has been sitting for a while, or maybe I'm trying to get back to an old job or something like that, or just the old life. I know for me, I can sit back and real story. I can sit back and I can say, when I used to smoke weed when I was a little younger. So when I used to smoke, though, my creative mind used to just go bananas, and I used to freestyle and have some very off the wall things to say. So when I was a little younger, I used to reminisce and say, man, I used to have a lot to say. We used to call it knowledge. I used to have a lot to say when I would smoke and things like that. But I forget that it was the same thing that triggered some other things that happened in my mind. So, bottom line, what I'm trying to get you to see is that my fight within, your fight within maybe even, is that we fantasize about the way life used to be, right? We fantasize about what the not so good life was, because sometimes when we're doing the work, sometimes when we're living in recovery, when we're living in a Bobby Brazzell word, when we're living in active recovery, when we're living it, sometimes it's hard work. It's stressful. We're not running from what we're feeling anymore. It requires us to be present, and it's not easy. So when we were running from everything, maybe that was a little more fun. But here we are living a more healthy life. I challenge you to not fantasize about the way things were, and have the courage to create something new if you have to. Do not allow that battle within to win. Do not let the past come back into what you have now and rob you of the recovery, rob you of the good life that you've created, all right? That's all I got to share with you today. Is sometimes my battle within is sometimes fantasizing of what used to be. But it's important to accept what is now and what we've created now in our recovery and in our new life. Y'all make sure you check out Lady Simone with the Fresh Friday. Also, make sure you check out Mo with the Mo's Monday Moment. That's my Wednesday Wow. Till next time, y'all, be easy.